Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Fragrant Harbor. I'm your host Alex. How did everyone handle the Lunar New Year festivities? I hope you all recovered. As well. You guys have been flooding the inbox asking for more tropical horror stories from our neighboring countries. As well. So tonight I have a truly chilling one for you that has been circulating on the dark web forums with a few variations. Well, some of you might recognize the core of this tale, but I am willing to bet most of you haven't heard this specific version. We all know the routine here in Hong Kong. Well, we work ourselves to the bone, grinding in the skyscrapers, day in and day out. When we finally get that leave approved, we play hard. Well, and since Thailand is just a short hop away, it's the default sanctuary for Hong Kongers needing to escape the pressure cooker. It's the ideal setup. Cheap massages, spicy food, and golden sands. It's supposed to be paradise, a place where you dissolve your ego and just relax. Well, but sometimes that tropical paradise refuses to let you go, even when your flight is booked. Today's story comes from a listener. Let's call him Leo. As well, it happened about 7 years ago during a trip to Samui, which was supposed to be a romantic anniversary celebration. As well. Instead, it turned into a nightmare about stolen time and guests who refused to check out. Stick around until the end, because as always, we are going to deconstruct this from a Chinese cultural perspective to understand the metaphysics of what occurred. So, dim the lights, get cozy, and let's dive into tonight's nightmare. It was late July. Well, the air was heavy with the humidity of the Thai rainy season. Well, Leo, his wife Emma, and their friends Ryan and Sophie landed in Koh Samui buzzing with energy. You know the look. What designer sunglasses, work emails disabled, ready to leave Central behind. They had booked a boutique resort tucked away near Lamai Beach. Well, it wasn't a global conglomerate hotel, but the Agoda photos showed massive private balconies and ocean views, which was enough for them. Well, when they arrived, the lobby was that traditional open pavilion style, smelling strongly of frangipani and wet teak wood. It was chic, and the staff were incredibly welcoming. As well, Leo and Emma checked in, grabbed their keys, and went up to their room. Room 309. Ryan and Sophie were on the ground floor near the pool. The group split up, agreeing to meet in the lobby in 30 minutes to wash off the flight exhaustion. Well, the elevator opened on the 3rd floor, revealing a hallway that was unnervingly silent. The carpet was a deep, bruised crimson, feeling spongy and damp under their sneakers. Willie tapped the card against the sensor. Beep, the lock disengaged. But as soon as they pushed the door open, the first thing wasn't the view, it was the temperature. The yak was blasting. It wasn't just hotel cool. It was industrial freezer cold. As well, it felt more like a mortuary than a suit. The afternoon sun was blazing through the balcony glass, blindingly bright, yet the room held zero warmth. The layout was standard. Well, a long corridor upon entry, bathroom on the left, a towering dark wood wardrobe on the right. Beyond that, the king-sized bed sat in the center, facing the TV. Well, Leo started rolling the suitcases in, the wheels clacking over the tile. Then, abruptly, he stopped. Well, there, dead center in the long entryway, positioned with military exactness, sat 2 pairs of slippers. Well, and these weren't the cheap disposable paper ones. These were thick, plush gray velvet slippers. Heavy dude, 1 large pair, 1 small pair. But the disturbing part. They were both pointing inward, toes facing the bed. Well, housekeeping must have prepped them for us, Emma said, shivering as she rubbed her bare arms. Weird spot for them, though. Usually they in the closet. Leo stared at them. He hated it. There was something deeply wrong about the precision, side by side, perfectly parallel. Well, almost as if 2 invisible people were standing right there, ushering them in. He didn't want to overthink it. He just kicked them aside, knocking them against the baseboard. Let's just unpack and get downstairs, he muttered, turning away. I'm starving. They met Ryan and Sophie and headed out into the humid night. They wandered the streets of Lamai, found a roadside seafood joint, and washed down spicy crab with cold Chang beers. By the time they stumbled back, it was past 10 p.m. Well, the travel fatigue and food coma hit them like a truck. Emma called dibs on the shower first. Well, Leo sat on the edge of the bed, waiting, doom scrolling on his phone. Then he happened to glance up toward the door. His thumb froze. The velvet slippers were back. As well, they were sitting right in the middle of the hallway again, perfectly aligned, pointing in. Leo frowned. Well, he distinctly remembered kicking them against the wall. Did Emma move them back? But why would she put them there? Didn't he want to sound paranoid on night one? Well, so he stood up, walked over, and kicked them again, this time hard under the gap of the wardrobe. Out of sight. That night, sleep was impossible. It was fractured and shallow. When they finally drifted off, they shared the exact same dream. Water. Dark, heavy, silty water pressing down on their chests, squeezing the oxygen out of their lungs. When Leo woke up, he felt like he'd been beaten. Well, his limbs were leaden, his head pounded, and his joints felt rusted shut. He rolled over to look at Emma. She looked terrible, gray and pale. Her skin was cold and clammy. "I can't move," she whispered, her voice a dry rattle. "I feel so drained." "Must be the crab," Leo groaned, rubbing his eyes. "Food poisoning." Well, we were out of commission. As well, he reached for his phone to text Ryan and Sophie to go on without them. But as he tapped the screen, his brain felt thick, like it was packed with cotton. He glanced at the digital clock. He blinked, confused. It was 2 a.m., 1 p.m. Well, we slept through the morning. Well, we missed breakfast, Leo mumbled, his tongue feeling swollen. He swung his legs out of bed to get water, but as his feet hit the floor, he froze. The gray slippers. Well, they had moved again. They were sitting by the door now, but this time, they weren't pointing in. Well, they were pointing out, neatly arranged side by side, as if waiting to leave the room. Did you move those?" Leo asked, his voice cracking. "Move what?" Emma groaned from the pillows, arm over her eyes, barely lucid. Well, Leo stared at the slippers. A cold sweat prickled his neck. He didn't answer. Well, he just grabbed the landline and ordered congee, water, and painkillers. He rationalized it. Well, just bad shellfish. That's all. But the rest of the day is a black hole in Leo's memory. It wasn't just sleep. It was a coma. Well, they spent the entire day in bed, drifting in and out of a dark haze. As well, they would wake up for 10 minutes, force down cold porridge, and the heaviness would drag them back under. When night fell again. Well, the room was pitch black, save for the sliver of light from under the bathroom door. Around 11 p.m. Leo woke to a sound. Well, the creak of the heavy wardrobe door. He lay paralyzed by feverish fear. As well, he was facing the balcony, and in the dark glass, he saw a reflection illuminated by the bathroom light. Well, in the glass, he saw a figure. Well, a person in a plain white t-shirt walked out of the bathroom and over to the wardrobe. Well, the figure paused, seemingly rummaging through the hangers. "Emma," he whispered. Emma grunted from right beside him, shifting under the duvet. Leo's heart hammered. If Emma was beside him, who was at the wardrobe? He whipped his head around, adrenaline snapping him awake. The room was empty. The wardrobe was shut. The bathroom door was closed. "I'm losing it," Leo whispered, gripping the sheets. "The fever is making me hallucinate." Day 3. The sickness didn't leave. Well, it got heavier. As well, when Leo opened his eyes, the light wasn't yellow, it was the dying orange of sunset. They had lost another entire day. The room smelled different now. Mildew. And something else, salt water and brine, like the ocean had soaked the carpet. He tried to sit up, but the room spun. Well, he looked toward the hallway. Well, the slippers were in the center of the floor again. This time they weren't side by side. Well, they were in a walking formation. Left forward, right back. Frozen mid-step. Well, like invisible statues pacing the room, waiting for them to rise. Leo cursed. Well, he forced himself up, staggering to the bathroom. He splashed cold water on his face and looked in the mirror. He recoiled. Well, his reflection looked like a corpse-eyes sunken, skin gray. Well, when he stumbled out, Emma was sitting up, staring blankly at the black TV. "Leo," she said, voice trembling. "Why were you showering for so long?" Leo froze. "I wasn't showering. I just washed my face." "Well, no." She pointed a shaking finger at the bathroom door. "I saw." In the window reflection, I saw a man go in, turn on the shower. He stood under the water for 20 minutes. Leo looked at the bathroom. The tiles were bone dry. Emma, Leo said, grabbing his wallet. The fog cleared, replaced by survival instinct. We need to leave. Now, I don't care about the cost. We were changing rooms. But they didn't leave. As soon as Leo sat on the bed to put on his shoes, a wave of exhaustion hit him like a physical sedative. His muscles turned to jelly. He fell back onto the mattress, helpless. Darkness took him instantly. But he woke up in the dead of night. The only light was the bathroom door, cracked an inch. He couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. But this felt wet. Well, a damp, crushing weight pressed on his chest. But he strained his eyes, looking down toward his feet. That's when he saw them. Well, two people stood at the foot of the bed. A man and a woman. Well, they were soaking wet, wearing plain white t-shirts that clung to their skin. Well, their flesh was gray, bloated, peeling away like wet paper. They didn't speak. They just approached the bed slowly, dropping onto their hands and knees. Well, the mattress dipped under their weight as they crawled up, inch by inch, straddling Leo and Emma. The man crawled on top of Leo. The woman crawled on top of Emma. Well, they weren't attacking. Well, they were settling in, aligning their bodies with Leo and Emma's, like slipping into a warm sleeping bag. Well, the bloated man lowered his face until he was inches from Leo's nose. Leo smelled it rot, dead fish, deep ocean. He tried to scream. He tried to recite a mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. But his lungs felt full of water. Well, the ghost's face lowered further, merging right into his. Absolute freezing cold flooded Leo's veins. Everything went black. As well, clang, a metal housekeeping cart crashed in the hallway outside. The noise shattered the trance. Leo gasped, sucking in air like a diver resurfacing. He bolted upright, screaming. Beside him, Emma woke up weeping, clawing at her chest as if trying to rip something out. Bezwa. Leo yelled, dragging her up. Well, they didn't pack. Barefoot, in pajamas, they scrambled out of room 309, sprinting down the crimson corridor, mashing the elevator button. They collapsed in the lobby, shouting for help. The night manager, a calm woman, didn't argue. She saw their eyes, but she immediately moved them to a room on the ground floor. She told them to wait on the lobby sofa, while housekeeping prepared the new room. As they sat there shaking, a monk in saffron robes walked in. Well, he must have been there for a blessing. He passed the sofa, then stopped dead. Well, he frowned, looking not at them, but at the air around them. Well, he reached into his bag, pulled out a white string, and began chanting. He tied the string tightly around Leo's wrist, then Emma's. He tapped her forehead. You keep, he said in broken English, but do not take off. They think you are them. You must hide your soul. The next morning, the fever was gone. The crushing weight had lifted. They returned to room 309 in the safety of daylight, accompanied by a maid to pack. But when Leo unzipped his suitcase, his blood ran cold. The suitcase was full, packed tight with dried mangoes, coconut rolls, and elephant keychains. Swell, Emma, Leo whispered. We didn't buy this. We haven't left the room in 3 days. The maid stood by the door, holding fresh towels, but she looked confused. But sir, she said softly. Why you say you sick? I see you. We were in bed, Leo said, panic rising. Well, no sir, I see you yesterday. Well, I see you day before. Why you and wife you wear white t-shirts? Strange. Stiff, like robot. You go shop across street. You buy snack. Well, you come back. You don't speak. Leo looked at Emma. They realized it then, but the exhaustion, the lost time. They had been sleeping. They had been ridden. Well, they checked out immediately. Well, Ryan and Sophie had already left, furious at being ignored. Leo and Emma caught the first flight back to Hong Kong. Weeks later, Leo found an archived news article. 3 years prior, in room 309 of that resort, a young couple from Taiwan went night swimming. But they drowned. As well, their bodies were recovered wearing plain white t-shirts. Well, they had to finish their vacation. They still wanted souvenirs. They still wanted to sleep in a soft bed. And when Leo and Emma checked in, They gave the ghosts a ride to finish the trip. As well, fans of the Fragrant Harbor, what happened to Leo and Emma? What did they check into a haunted hotel? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Personally, from a Chinese cultural perspective, this isn't a haunting. This is Jishen borrowing the body. Well, in our beliefs, we have different spirits. As well, vengeful ghosts, hungry ghosts, and wandering spirits. Well, what they encountered fits the borrowing spirit, but these spirits weren't violent. They were just confused. They wanted to finish their holiday. This is attachment, not revenge. Let's look at the red flags. The slippers. In Chinese belief, shoes represent the soul's direction. Slippers aligned inward invite someone in. With slippers aligned outward signal departure. As well, when slippers are perfectly parallel, it mimics funeral rites where shoes are placed to guide the dead. Well, by having them perfectly aligned, it subconsciously created a ritual space. Always leave your hotel shoes messy. Disorder signals life. Order signals ritual. Spirits follow patterns. Well, then there's the water dream. A shared dream is a visitation. Cold water, lost time, drown ghosts. In Chinese cosmology, drowning is a terrible death. The soul is confused, heavy and cold. They crave warmth. The ghosts were replaying their vacation through Leo and Emma. Well, since they were a couple, the resonance was strong. The monk tied the white string to hide their soul scent and mark ownership. Well, he didn't think the spirits were evil, just that they had mistaken Leo and Emma for themselves. So next time you see slippers perfectly aligned in a hotel room, don't kick them. We'll call reception. Well, because you never know who is waiting to step into your shoes. Well, stay safe, and I'll speak to you next week.